Have you ever wondered why a semi-truck can be ordered with up to 600 horsepower and over 2,000 pound-feet of torque, while the diesel pickup in your driveway, often built by the very same companies, is capped at around 500 horsepower and half the torque? Both run a turbo diesel. Both are built to pull heavy loads, yet the pickup is capped far below the big rig on purpose. And the reason isn't cost, size, or emissions. It's one thing almost nobody thinks about, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Before we get to that reason, we have to clear up the biggest myth in this whole conversation, because most people are arguing about the wrong number entirely. When people compare engines, they reach for horsepower, but horsepower is not what moves a heavy load. Torque is. Torque is the raw twisting force an engine makes at the crankshaft, the muscle that actually turns the wheels against a heavy trailer. Horsepower is really just a measure of how fast that twisting force can do work. For dragging weight up a grade, the number that matters is torque, and the size of the engine that makes it. So when you hear that a semi makes 2,000 pound-feet and a pickup makes 1,200, you are not looking at a pickup that's weak. You are looking at two engines built to move very different amounts of weight. Hold on to that, because the horsepower on the brochure is the least important part of this whole story. Now let's put the two side by side, and the real difference jumps out immediately. A modern semi runs an inline-six diesel that measures 13 to 15 liters. The Cummins X15 is a 15-liter engine making up to 600 horsepower and 2,050 pound-feet of torque. The Detroit and the Packer engines sit right behind it, all of them massive, all of them built around a single job. Now look at what's under the hood of the toughest diesel pickup you can buy. The Cummins in a Ram, the Power Stroke in a Ford, the Duramax in a Chevy. Every one of them is somewhere between 6.6 and 6.7 liters. That is less than half the displacement of the big rig engine, half the size, and it still makes 430 to 500 horsepower and up to 1,200 pound-feet of torque. That is remarkable for its size. But the gap in the headline was never really about horsepower. It's that the semi-engine is more than twice as big and makes nearly twice the torque. The real question is why that gap exists at all, and this is where most people guess wrong. The easy answer is cost. A 15-liter engine is expensive, so surely that's why it stays out of pickups, or size. Maybe it just won't fit, or emissions rules holding the pickup back. And all three of those are real. A big engine does cost more, it is harder to fit, and emissions shape every modern diesel. But not one of them is the real reason. And here is how you know. Even if you handed a truck maker a magic 15-liter engine that was cheap, compact, and perfectly clean, they still would not put it in your pickup. Because these two engines are not just different sizes. They are built to live two completely different lives. And the life the engine is built to live is the thing almost nobody thinks about. It's called duty cycle, and it is the real answer to this entire question. A semi-engine is built to run at or near its full load almost constantly. A long-haul truck rolls out with 80,000 pounds behind it and runs for 10, 12 hours a day, day after day, week after week, dragging that weight up every grade in the country. It is expected to do that for 1 million miles before it ever needs a major rebuild. That is an almost unimaginable amount of work, and to survive it, the engine has to be enormous, heavy, and lazy. Its huge displacement lets it make massive torque while barely trying, turning slowly, running cool, and never getting stressed. It is a marathon runner, built to jog forever and never stop. A pickup engine lives the exact opposite life. Think about what your diesel truck actually does on a normal week. Most days it carries nothing at all. It cold starts in the morning, idles in the school pickup line, makes a couple of short runs to the hardware store, and then sits in the driveway for days. And then, maybe one weekend a month, it hooks onto a heavy trailer and works hard for a few hours before going right back to being a daily driver. That engine has to fire up reliably on a freezing morning after sitting all week. It has to be smooth and quiet enough to live with. It has to sprint when you stab the pedal and loaf when you don't. It isn't a marathon runner. It's a sprinter that also has to be comfortable enough to drive to dinner. You can hear it in how the two engines are geared. A big rig is set up to cruise all day at just 1,100 to 1,500 RPM. The engine barely turning over, sipping its way across the country while it drags 40 tons behind it. It was never built to rev. It was built to pull, slowly and forever. A pickup engine spins faster and freer because it has to feel alive when the bed is empty and still have plenty left when you finally hook up a trailer. Same fuel, same basic idea, and two completely different personalities because they answer to two completely different jobs. You cannot build one engine that does both of those jobs well. The marathon engine would be miserable in a pickup, and the pickup engine would destroy itself trying to run the marathon. That is the one thing almost nobody thinks about, and it quietly explains everything else. Because once you understand duty cycle, every other difference falls right into place. The semi-engine is huge because a constant, full-load million-mile life demands a huge engine running gently. The pickup engine is small because its stop and start, mostly empty life simply doesn't. And the pickup has other bosses to answer to. It has to be light enough not to crush its own front axle. It has to be cheap enough that a regular person can actually buy it. And it has to be compact enough to fit under a normal hood with room left over to work. A 15-liter engine wouldn't just be expensive and tight. It would wreck the fuel economy of a truck that spends most of its life empty. It would pile hundreds of pounds exactly where you don't want them. And it would be built to survive a workload the pickup is never going to see. And that is the part that finally closes the loop. The pickup's job just doesn't call for the big engine in the first place. A semi is built to legally haul 80,000 pounds all day long. Even the strongest one-ton dually tops out around 40,000 pounds on a gooseneck, and the vast majority will never pull half of that. An engine is always sized to the real job, and the pickup's real job is lighter, shorter, and far more varied than a big rig's. Giving it 2,000 pound-feet and a 15-liter block would be like dropping a locomotive engine into a delivery van. All that extra muscle would just sit there unused, costing you money and fuel every single day, waiting on work you are never going to ask of it. Which is exactly why the pickup horsepower war is a little bit of theater. Every year, Ford, Ram, and Chevy fight over who has the highest horsepower and the biggest tow rating. And every year, the numbers creep a little higher because a bigger number on the window sticker sells trucks. Buyers chase the highest figure even when they will never come close to using it, but that war has a ceiling, and the ceiling isn't set by what's possible to build. It's set by what a truck that also has to start on a cold morning, sip fuel while empty, and fit in your garage can reasonably be. The pickup makers aren't holding back because they can't build more. They're building the exact engine the job actually needs. So here's the answer, the thing you can't unsee now. A pickup doesn't have a 600 horsepower engine because it was never built to live a 600 horsepower life. The semi-engine is a giant, tireless workhorse designed to haul the maximum legal load for 1,000,000 miles without ever really getting to rest. The pickup engine is a versatile, everyday machine designed to do a dozen different jobs and still fire up on a cold morning 3 years from now. They were never really competing on horsepower at all. They were built for two completely different lives. And once you start seeing a truck engine that way, by the life it has to live instead of the number on the brochure, you understand exactly why the one in your driveway is the size it is, and why you wouldn't actually want the big rig's engine even if they offered it to you for free. So I'm curious, what's the heaviest load you've ever pulled with a pickup, and did you ever wish you had more? Or did the truck turn out to have exactly what it needed? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and watch the next video above.